And hello YouTube, this is GSmaniamsmart, and I'm today in a brainy video for Gaming with GS, and today I want to go over something that I've been wanting to go over for a very long time now, but just haven't gotten around to it, and this is a beginner's guide to Guild Wars 2. If you're a new player who's just bought the game, or your friends have convinced you to try the game with them, or if you just finished making your character and you sort of don't know what to do because you're just standing in your starting area and you're confused, or if you're someone who's been playing the game for a little bit but you're still not quite sure how you're supposed to play the game, then hopefully this guide will help you out. Now, while most games lack a good end game, I feel like Guild Wars 2 lacks a good start game, mainly because there's just a lack of direction. By no means is there not enough to do in the game, because there's a ton of things to do, but rather there's just too much to do in such a large world that sometimes it can seem overwhelming and you don't know where to go, and sometimes the things that you want to begin you can't begin because you're not high enough level, so everything can seem kind of confusing. Now, while a lot of your friends are probably raiding or running fractals or gathering mastery points to get above the level 80 cap, or they're farming gold in some of the Heart of Thorns areas and maps, you can't do any of that yet, but that's okay, because there's a lot of other things that you can do that are fairly fun as well, and that you should be doing anyhow to boost your levels up very quickly as a new starting player. Now, outside of the personal story, which I'll get to in just a second, your personal story is basically the main storyline of the game. But outside of that, much of your gameplay is heavily driven by personal goals. Do you want to be that one person who runs dungeons a lot and gets lots of loot that way and gets lots of experience that way and learns the dungeon path to do them very quickly? Then you can definitely do that. If you want to be that person who just does map completion a lot and earns the map completion achievement, and you basically have all the waypoints, you can travel wherever you want, and you've basically completed the entire map. If you want to do that, then you can do that as well. Or do you want to be the person who just collects a lot of different armor styles and buys different karma items from different heart vendors, or just collects stuff like that, and you want to use those armor pieces to fashion up your character into a specific idea or style that you have in mind and play fashion wars, then you can do that too. There's a variety of things to do in Guild Wars 2, but as a starting character, it can be kind of rough, so hopefully this will guide you in the correct direction. Now, as soon as you've created your character, and as soon as you've finished the tutorial and gathered some coin, which should be very easy to do, I think you get like some starting gold anyway, go and find the nearest merchant and buy bags. You're going to need lots of bag space because your inventory is going to fill up very quickly. Along with that, you also want to get some gathering tools and a salvaging kit by a merchant. Now, gathering tools are going to help you gather resources around the map, and a salvaging kit is going to help you break down unneeded equipment into more crafting components. Now, you're probably wondering, why would I want to salvage equipment into crafting components if it's just gonna fill my inventory up even more? And that's because this game has an interesting little mechanic that allows you to deposit materials into your bank. Any crafting material that you gather from trees or ore, or from plants that you gather, or things that you salvage down into crafting components, these can be stored into your bank automatically by clicking the little gear wheel in the top right hand corner of your inventory and clicking deposit materials. And that will usually save you a lot of inventory space. In fact, if your inventory is full, always do that first, and you'll probably have some space left over. Now, those are pretty much the first few things that I would do, and you're going to be continuing to buy these things throughout the game because you will run out of these harvesting tools and salvaging kits. Now, whenever you have the chance to do so, look for the green star on your map in the top right hand corner of your screen, and you'll be able to continue your personal story that way. Your first run through the personal story can be really interesting and fun, and it gives you a lot of experience, and it levels you really fast. Now, at a certain point, unfortunately, you'll be gated from the remaining story, and you'll need to wait until you're a higher level. But this should be your main goal, to do the personal story. If you're ever lost and don't know what to do, look in your hero panel, look for the story journal, and see if you can continue your personal story and go to the green star on the map. This is the fastest way to level up and should be your main priority. Now, in between these little time-gated story quests where you'll need to wait until you're higher level, You're best off roaming around the map and finding points of interest, so waypoints that will allow you to teleport there at a later time, vistas that'll give you a nice little view of the area, hero points, and completing hearts, which are basically like mini quests. At the same time, you also want to look for orange circles on the map and in your area, because these are dynamic events that have a lot of variety to them. There's a lot of different events in the map, and these also grant you a really good amount of experience as well, so do as many events as possible. Now, once you get level 11, those hero points that I was talking about, you'll be able to use hero points by completing hero challenges to unlock new traits and new skills for your class. Now, don't worry too much about the traits and the skills for now, because you'll eventually learn which skills are best, and you really shouldn't worry too much about skill optimization until you start doing dungeons. So maybe until level 40 or so, you want to start looking at skills and traits, but realistically speaking, you won't really need them until level 80. Once you're level 80, that's when you really want to fine-tune your skills and fine-tune your traits and look at what stats you want to build for your gear and all that kind of stuff. Now, another thing that I suggest you do is go into the PvP lobby by clicking the double sword icon, and if you talk to the merchant in the Heart of the Mists, he'll be able to offer you all the weapons, and if you buy the weapons that are available for your class, you can actually try them out on the golems or the class NPCs, and you can see which weapons you like. Now again, you will be boosted to level 80 as you go into PvP, and you'll have all the skills and all the traits unlocked, but don't worry too much about that just yet. If you do want to take an in-depth look at all the things available to you, perhaps you can try your luck at playing PvP if you find a really great combination of skills and traits and a gear setup. And PvP will actually grant you tomes and knowledges as well that will give you 1 PvE level. But if you're not ready for that and you just came here for the weapons, try out the weapons, see which weapons you like, and then you'll be able to take those weapons into PvE, and you'll sort of be able to find your playstyle a bit. Now, pre-level 40 or so, it can seem like a grind a bit, but if you take your time exploring the world and enjoying the game, you'll have a lot of fun. And if you have a friend to do it with you, then it'll be a lot more enjoyable as well. If you want to switch starting areas as well, because once you finish one of the, say you start as a Asura in Radasum in Metrica province. If you finish that area, you can actually switch starting areas. You can go to the Silvari, Caldon Forest, or you can go to the Norn, Shiver Peak Mountains, and you can complete those starting areas as well. That's a great way to do map completion as well as to change your environment a bit. All you gotta do is go to your city that's nearest to you, find the portal, the Asura Gate, it's a purple icon that leads to Lion's Arch, and Lion's Arch actually has a collection of portals that will take you to each of the race's cities, and you can then go to the starting area map there, and you can gain more experience that way as well. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that map completion and experience gain also works for the cities. So if you find all the waypoints, vistas, and points of interest in the cities, you'll gain experience and you'll gain a map completion reward as well. And those are really easy to do. And if you're looking for something to do other than combat, you can definitely do that as well, because those are, it's a nice little thing to do that you don't need to worry about fighting things or whatever. You can do them very calmly and at your own pace, really. Now, another thing I want to say as well is that everything in this game gives you experience, whether you're discovering areas, whether you're walking around the city, finding waypoints, whether you're gathering resources, cutting down trees, whether you're reviving a player, whether you're completing an event or just killing mobs. Everything in this game gives you experience one way or another. So take the opportunity to do everything that you see. Make sure you gather everything that you find, because it does give you experience. Now, after you've done some map completion, after you've done a few personal story quests, it shouldn't be long until you're level 20 or maybe 25. Now, from here on, and you can definitely have looked at these things before level 20, I'm just deciding to put these in the level 20 range or whatever. You can start to either do more map completion, and you can definitely venture into the higher level zones, such as Brisbane Wildlands or the Essa Plateau, areas that come after the starting area. You can do that, or you can continue your personal story. But apart from that, you can also start looking at crafting and PvP and Edge of the Mists, which is basically a world versus world game mode. Now, all those materials that you've deposited from gathering and from salvaging, all these materials you can use in crafting, and crafting can give you a lot of experience as well. If you have the necessary materials, you can gain immense amounts of experience, and you can actually level really fast, faster than map completion and faster than personal story even. But you need to have the materials. If you don't have the materials, you can buy them on the trading post, but just be careful, you don't want to use all of your gold at once. Now, I guess since we're on the topic of trading posts, I may as well talk about that. On the trading post, you'll also notice that you can buy and sell other goods. Now, merchants that you find in the areas are a great way to sell your junk, and some of the karma merchants and the heart vendors that are open after you help them with their heart are great for buying trinkets, and you can sell your stuff there as well. But the trading post is where every tradable item in the game can be bought and sold, and if you feel the need, you can buy a full set of gear from the trading post as well. But I really wouldn't do that until around level 50 and 60 if you really want to do so, and you'll want to buy a yellow gear set. You'll see that the gear is actually broken down into different qualities, white being the lowest, then comes blue, then comes green, then comes yellow, then comes orange, then pink, and then purple. But you want to aim for yellow gear, as this is rare gear and it has much better stats than the white, blue, and green, which you already get from personal story, and you tend to get those a lot from just playing PvE in general. Now, a lot of your gear that you get from the personal story and from the karma vendors and just general loot, that should be good enough gear, so you don't really need to buy anything from the trading post, especially considering that buying a full set of gear can get really expensive. In fact, a lot of players, and for a lot of my new characters, I don't even touch the trading post until I reach level 80, because that's when you actually need to care about gear. Well, you'll need to get the orange gear. The exotic gear, which is orange, is actually the highest gear right after ascended quality, which you have to do a lot of crafting to get to, and you don't need to worry about that yet. So at level 80, you'll actually want to buy exotic gear or craft it, so that's why most people don't really touch the trading post, because you don't really need it at the time. But anyway, at this point, you may also want to look at world bosses. In fact, like I said, you can do world bosses at an earlier level as well, but at around level 20-25, you can do a pretty good amount of them, and a lot of them do spawn in the lower level areas, such as the fire elemental, the jungle worm, the shadow behemoth, the Svanir shaman. A lot of the lower level areas like Metrica Province, Wafer Foothills, and those, they have a world boss. And they're basically big, huge events where a lot of people go to, and you fight this giant boss, and they give you a lot of experience, and they give you a lot of loot as well. A lot of your rare items, in fact, you'll find from world bosses, as you are guaranteed a rare every time you do a world boss during the daily reset. Like every day you can do a world boss, and you're definitely guaranteed a rare from that. And there's a giant chest that spawns, and you get lots of stuff in there too. Now, the higher level you are, the more these world bosses you'll be able to do, and you'll be able to actually participate in it without dying instantly. Now, if you choose to participate in PvP, I do suggest you learn to fight against other people and master your class and understand your skills, and learn how to capture points and hold them to gain your team points. And you may also want to take a look at Stronghold, which is another PvP mode which pushes teams to kill the opposing team's lords by breaking into their keeps with the aid of door breakers and archers. Now, World vs. World, or WVW, is a similar PvP experience, but on a much larger scale. For lower level characters, Edge of the Mists may be easier for you, so when you open the World vs. World panel, you may want to look at Edge of the Mists first, because it is easier to understand. And you can go into World vs. World from the Lion's Arch portal if it's not available yet through the UI in-game, because Lion's Arch is basically the hub of the game. All the portals are there, so you can basically travel across the world and go to any area in the game from Lion's Arch. But like I said, Edge of the Mist is probably the best place to participate in if you want to start World vs. World on a lower level character, because on a smaller scale, World vs. World, the normal kind, it has a lot of big maps and there's a lot more people on there. But in Edge of the Mists, you're basically running with a commander and with an army of people, and you fight against other people and you capture objectives. It's similar to PvP, where you hold objectives and you gain points for your team, but you also gain Tomes of Knowledge. And Tomes of Knowledge are basically just something that you click and you gain a free level. So while PvP and World vs. World don't gain you PvE experience, and they don't level your character up through experience gain, they do give you Tomes of Knowledges, which instantly level your character at least by 1 level. And you can get a ton of these Tomes of Knowledges and just continue to level up your character that way. Now, it's also worth noting that each of the PvP and World vs. World modes also have a reward track that you can choose, and they give you even more rewards and more loot as well, so those are very rewarding as well. Now, once you're level 40 or so, you should probably start to do dungeons. Now, I'm aware, and you should be aware too, now the first dungeon does become available at level 30. However, I've decided to choose level 40 because you'll have 2 or 3 dungeons available to you. The way these dungeons unlock is that every 10 levels or so, you'll unlock a new dungeon for a new area. Dungeons grant you a lot of experience in bursts, so you'll be able to level very quickly through dungeons. Now, there are several dungeons in the game, and they each have an icon on the map with a little door symbol. Be aware that some of these are for higher level people, and you won't be able to do these dungeons if you aren't high enough level. They won't even let you enter. But dungeons basically have a story mode, and they have multiple paths, which make each dungeon run a little different. And it's a great idea to use the LFG system to group up with other people if you are intending to do dungeons. Now, aside from dungeons, you can also continue to craft on a second profession if you've already gotten one to 400 or to 500, which you probably haven't gotten to 500, but if you got one to 400, you can work on another profession if you want to craft that up, and you can gain some more levels through that. You can continue to PvP and gain Tomes of Knowledges, or you can continue to do World vs. World and Edge of the Mists to gain Tomes of Knowledge as well, or you can just continue to explore the world of Tyria and go into each new map and do map completion, and of course, obviously, always do your personal story. Now, once you hit level 80, from level 40 to level 80, you sort of want to be doing everything that I just said. And you can rotate around between things if you get bored of one thing. And, you know, as you get higher level, you'll unlock more dungeons, and you can do those, and you can add those into your rotation of things that you want to do. Or if you just like doing one thing in particular, you can just do that one thing always. But once you hit level 80, everything becomes really fun, and you'll be able to do a lot more things. You'll be able to go for more specific goals. You'll be able to do raids. You'll be able to do the full collection of dungeons and fractals. You'll be able to participate in all the world bosses. Some of the world bosses actually require you to have skill and have a collective effort with the people in your area, such as Tequato or the Triple Trouble Worm. You'll be able to complete the Living World seasons. You'll be able to farm for masteries, explore the new Heart of Thorns maps, and you'll be able to learn your new specialization for your class, which basically advances your class to gain more skills and traits. And on a final note, I do also want to bring up guilds. If you end up joining a guild or creating a guild, or if you're just in a guild in general, the game will become a lot more fun to you, and a lot more things will be open to you as well, such as guild missions, such as guild hall claiming, such as decorating your guild hall, leveling up your guild hall, getting new upgrades, getting different boosts for your character, experience boosts, all kinds of things. So I do encourage you to look for a guild, or create a guild, or just join a guild. Be in one, because you'll be able to do a lot more, and some of the guild missions are very rewarding and very fun to do as well, so it just gives you something else to do to level your character up amongst the entire list that I just gave you. And that's pretty much it. That's kind of a quick little summary of what you should be doing pre-level 80, how to level up. Hopefully you enjoyed this guide, and hopefully you found it helpful. If you did and find it helpful, I can also make a level 80 guide, which is basically telling you what you should aim for and what you should look at doing, and the goals you should have, and all different types of things you can do at level 80 and beyond. But if you want more information on dungeons, how to make gold, salvaging, or anything else in the game, really I encourage you to subscribe to the channel, because I do cover a lot of the game's content. I create several different guides. I cover a lot of the news and updates for the game as well, and I think it'd be very helpful to you, so I encourage you to subscribe to the channel. Now, if you check the description of this video, I did leave some helpful links there that are useful concerning world boss timers, crafting guides, and other helpful resources, so definitely check in the description for a lot of different links that I have there that can help you while playing Guild Wars 2. And other than that, that's pretty much it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if you'd like to donate $8 to my Patreon page, anything as low as that is always very helpful, and very much appreciated. All you gotta do is click the card in the top right hand corner of the screen, and it'll bring you to the page. I also have a tutorials channel, a music channel, an advice channel, and a vlogging channel. You want to check those out. Links are in the description as well as on the end card. And if you happen to have subscribed to the channel, welcome on board, and hopefully you enjoy the future videos. That's pretty much it. This is GSmaniamsmart, and I'll be back sooner than you think. Don't go anywhere.